You're listening to the Get Out and Drive podcast with John, Custom Car Nerd Meyer, and Jason, Old Car Guy Carr. We'll be bringing you gearheads everything you never wanted to know about cars and why they should be on the road and not in your garage. Are you ready to get out and drive? Speed over to our friends at racingjunk.com and sign up for a Pro Club membership.
The Get Out and Drive podcast has partnered with racingjunk.com to offer a Pro Club membership exclusively for our listeners for just $25 a year.
Just a few perks of the Pro Club membership include up to 50 free photos per ad, a dashboard to keep track of your listed items, and search alerts so you don't miss out on that must-have part.
Don't forget about the Racing Junk store discount. Free video uploads for your ads, $65 in ad upgrade credits, and an official club member banner on your ads.
Just use promo code POD23 when you sign up on racingjunk.com.
Welcome back to another super fantastic, fun-filled, ridiculous episode of the Get Out and Drive podcast. I am John, Custom Car Nerd Meyer.
And I'm Jason, Old Car Guy Carr.
We've got several people with us here today, and we're always talking about supporting the next generation. We're always talking about what drives youth. And Kyle Lockrow Racing has been good to us for quite some time. And he has introduced us to Jordan Hutton, Camp Teague, and Lily Impellizzeri. So, I mean, everybody all together, I'm certain you won't jump in all at one time, but you're new to racing. I'm seeing that everybody's here. I'm reading everyone's bio, and everybody is within a year or two. Is that correct? Lily, how long have you been racing, Lily?
I've been racing for almost 3 years now.
Wow.
Well, been some time.
Yeah. And Jordan, what's your background?
I did a lot of drag racing actually when I was a kid, so I've been racing since I could walk, but doing sprint car racing on dirt, this is my third complete year.
Mm-hmm. When you say drag racing, you ran in junior dragster circuit?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Ran junior dragsters for about 3 years, and then the fun kind of was out of it and moved the dirt oval karts.
It's hard to have an interview with three people at once because you want to ask a question and you want to hear everybody's answer, but we want to try and take it one at a time. So Jordan, I'm going to start with you just because on my screen you're on the top. So you started with junior dragster and you moved around in your racing career. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you now?
18.
So 18 years old. You've been racing basically as long as you can remember. Mm-hmm. At what point do you realize that, I want to move from this style racing to that style racing? Was there any pivotal moment that said, I want to get out of the straight line, I want to go to circle track racing?
So it got to the point where it was actually me and my father racing at the time, and he got to the point where he was winning and it just got boring for him. We did a lot of bracket racing around us, and I struggled, and it was just a money pit. I mean, blowing $50,000 in a junior dragster, we just couldn't afford it. So we drove by Fulton Speedway. We were heading towards Cicero, and we saw Pat Ward's shop. Pulled in there, and we saw his hauler and everything, and it just hooked us. He guided us where to go and everything, and then we went from there, and we did a lot of oval kart racing, and we loved it. And then I knew it was time to jump up when it started getting boring in the oval karts. Then we went straight from the oval karts right to the sprint cars.
So I know you mentioned someone. Are they currently like someone who is a mentor? Are they working with you as a mentor, or how are they helping your career?
He was kind of just like a guy that, 10-year-old kid just went and watched the races, and he did really well. So I liked how he raced, and I liked what he did. He's actually a Hall of Famer around here for dirt big block modified racing, but he's kind of the one that hooked us in to go and do it. Just seeing how nice people were in oval racing was kind of a big hook for us.
Did he open doors for you and kind of put you in front of other people?
He actually showed us. He gave us the number to our local cartway. Then he gave us a couple numbers to find other cartways, carts to buy, good people to contact, good connections to start off with, and we had a lot of success in go-karts. Honestly, my third ever race, I went from 10th to 1st in the junior classes, and we did pretty well in go-karts.
And Camp, one thing I noticed that when I was reading through the little bio that was given to us is the first thing I wrote down was that you're not from a car family, but yet here you are racing. How does that even happen?
You know, it's funny. I was, I'm originally from Mississippi, where racing is just not a thing, right? It's all about football down there, right? So when I was a car guy, my parents didn't really know what to do. And so, luckily we had a bunch of friends. We moved to North Carolina when I was about 5 years old. We had a bunch of friends who were super into cars. They were into racing. And, so I kind of got into that world through them. It's been interesting for sure. It's definitely different, at least from experiences that I've heard from other people, for sure.
Not being in a car family, Camp, did you have to do explaining to your family, like, trust me, man, this is cool?
I still have to.
Okay.
Every day. Yeah. No, yeah, they don't really get it. It's okay though. We all come from different walks. But yeah, ever since I was a kid, I was like, Mom, I really like racing cars. I really like racing cars. She was like, what does that even mean? Like, that's what people in Europe do. But Mom, look at this. This is so cool. But they've come around to the idea of it a bit more now that they see how hard I've been working at it and what all we're doing. So they're definitely supportive of it. I don't want to say they're not supportive of it. They just, they don't necessarily get it yet, I guess.
They may not understand it. Like, there's portions of my family that I say what I do, and people say, huh?
Right.
Why, how can you sit around for hours and hours and hours and talk to somebody about a car? That's exactly. The thing that takes you to work. That's the thing that takes you to the grocery store. And okay, we're done.
Right. Yep. Very much.
Well, and not to mention the fact that now that you're in the South, basically, aren't you? You said North Carolina is where you're at now.
Yes, sir. I live in North Carolina.
So you're in prime time racing country,
yes,
per
sir.
se. So it's hard not to be a part of that growing up today and having that all around you, no matter what you're doing.
Right.
Lily, let's jump over to you for a second. I want to find out, I think you're the youngest of the group, but here you are, you say you've been racing for 3 years. What got you into racing?
You're probably going to be surprised by this, but it was actually a video game that got me into racing.
Okay.
I got this game called Project Cars 3 because I seen it in a GameStop magazine. I was like, hey, Dad, can we get this game? He's like, sure, why not? And so we sat there, we played the game for a while. I was like, look at me, I'm great at this. He was like, okay. Took me go-karting. I still say this to this day that the go-kart they put in me was just like overpowered because they just refilled it with gas. He was like, I probably lapped him like around 3 times. And then we went high-speed go-karting where where like the Hans and helmets and all that. And we did 2 rounds. And on the second round, I came back off the track and I went up to the owner and I was like, my cart wasn't as fast this time. He pulled my dad over and he was like, her times were 0.2 seconds faster every lap. The track's already slowed down for her. Get her in a race car. And then he just did research and found a Bandolero and just kind of like threw me in it and said, good luck.
Now, we were talking off screen a little bit, Lily, about the Bandoleros because I love watching the Legends cars. They look like 5/8 scale or whatever the scale they are of 30s era cars. Is your car chassis-wise set up generally like a Legends car, or do you have specific differences for your Bandolero?
We have specific differences. So, like how Legend cars, they have their engines in the front of them. Mm-hmm. Well, with Bandoleros, our engine's not in the front. Our engine's actually in the back. So Legends, think they're front-wheel drive cars. Don't count me on that because I'm not too sure about that. But Bandos were actually rear-wheel drive cars. So, and we only have one brake. So, I mean, like when we slam on those brakes, we spin out like it was nothing.
Yeah, your brake is inboard left rear, correct? And are you running circle track, or do you turn right every now and then?
I run for right now just circle tracks, but in January we're hoping to take me down to the winter heats. That's a national event that's held on the Charlotte Roval.
Because I'd love to see how the Bandos handle, because I've never seen one on a road course. I'd love to see one set up for turning right.
Trust me, I would like to see one too. If I'm being honest,
I would guess they set up and they would run how the engine is placed. They would run like a side by side or something, and they have good weight placement.
So we have weights in my car, so we have them like evenly distributed out, and so I mean, like the weight on it, it's pretty even. So I mean, it's not like it's leaning to one side where it's just gonna like spin out and like random stuff like that.
Right, but when you're running an oval course, you're turning left. The thing handles pretty good. It doesn't push.
Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
So Jordan, what we talked a little bit about the how you kind of got into the circle track racing. Why don't you tell our audience what it is that you're racing today, and how that compares to where you started? Maybe it is in the same class of where you started, but tell us a little bit about what you're racing today.
So present day, I'm racing dirt sprint cars. I'm running 305, 360s, and soon to be hopefully some 410 action. But it's totally different animal. The go-karts, you're 2 inches off the ground. You feel everything right on your butt, and it's totally different. No shocks, nothing. And then sprint cars, you have torsions and you have shocks. You have big wings on the top of them to push the car down. It's totally different. The only thing I ever carried over from my go-kart was the consistency fact. The go-kart on dirt, you have to be so consistent every lap, nail your mark. I mean, a tenth of a second, them things is half a track, it seems. And that's the biggest thing that I noticed the difference in, is that the go-karts, I feel like I started better off kind of going from go-karts straight to the sprint cars, because I was a lot more consistent starting off than a lot of people were. And that was a huge benefit for me.
Jordan, you're running sprints on dirt? Yep. Okay. Because I know I've seen a couple of them that have run, very few, but some that have run on asphalt. But you're obviously getting used to pretty quickly handling that thing through the corners.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And the bigger motor you get, more horsepower, the more it actually wings over, and it allows you to kind of get in there a little bit harder, which is different for me. But I've gotten a handle of the 305. I'm still working on the 360.
Right. Yeah, because I see a lot of people braking late and just throwing it into the turn and learning, how to handle the car and where to come out.
Yeah. With the 360, they're like 780 horse. So the quicker you get going, the harder it actually plants the left side into the ground. And when it does that, it actually turns harder and it keeps you in the track. Okay. So the problem with that is you have to find a very fine margin to be able to run consistent fast laps. Because if you hold it wide open, you go and throw out the corner, you're going to get in fine, but you're going to come off real tight and get into the wall. But if you let out too early, then you're going to push up and coming into the corner.
Right. Are you more of a low track driver, or you run the middle?
No, I actually like the top. I love being on the top. I love the thrill of it.
You get pretty loose up there quick.
Yeah. I love it when there's a big cushion up top that you can just go up there and smack into it. It's the funnest thing in the world.
Yeah. Very cool.
So a couple of times you mentioned, 305, 360, 410.
Yes.
Explain not just to me, but to our listeners who might not know exactly what you're talking about. I'm assuming it's different classes of sprint car?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about what those differences are between those three classes.
So a 305 is kind of like your beginner class, but it's more now formed into a beginner class, but kind of like the ARCA series is the way I look at it. It's our ARCA series. but they're about a little bit less than 500 horse. Some of the great 305 motors were pushing 500. There's no cockpit adjustables, and there's no communications, nothing, and dirt sprint car racing. But now your 360 class, you start to get a little bit more complicated. And around here, you can have in-cockpit adjustables, so you can adjust all 4 shocks while you're racing, and you can adjust your wing forward and backward. Now, the 410 aspect, they're 900 plus horse, and depending on the series you run, you can have in-cockpit adjustables, but all 360 and 410 cars, you can have wing sliders. Your 410 series is your, NASCAR Cup Series.
Wow, that's pretty amazing to go from a 500 horse car up to 900 plus.
Yeah.
But it's, like you said, it's like driving in the different series of NASCAR ARCA, and you move into trucks and Busch or whatever. I'm going way back in my age now here. Craftsman truck and Xfinity and up into the Cup Series, and you're basically racing very similar chassis, but power, weight ratings, like all that different stuff is just so much different in those different classes. And by the sounds of things, you seem to have found your groove, so to speak, not just on the track, but your whole racing in these cars. Do you think it's something that you're going to stick with as far as the sprints, or do you have aspirations to go further into different class of racing?
I definitely think I'm going to stick with the sprint cars, but I don't know. I'm just a kid that likes to be there. I like going to different races. Even when I'm not racing, I like being there. I'd like to kind of try some other things than just dirt sprint car racing. But I think no matter what, my heart will always be there.
Yeah, look at Tony Stewart. That's where he started, and that's where he's at now. So,
yeah.
How much is it to pay attention to racing, and you're adjusting your car?
Yeah, it's when I first moved into the 360 class 2 years ago, we rented out a track, and that's actually what I practiced on my first session. I kind of had a good idea what the car would do because I had a little bit of a less horsepower motor. It was only like 650, so that's not that big of a jump from my 305. But I went into the corner, I'll come out, and the only time you can actually adjust your wing is when you're turning. So the only time you can adjust your wing is throughout the corner. So that took me a couple laps to get used to and getting the rhythm down to which way it is. Because on my first car, if you went forward with your slider, it'd push the wing back. And that messed me all sorts up for the first session. I kept going the wrong way with it, beat myself up. But the shock is even bigger thing. You're going down the straightaway, and you actually have to feel the clicks in your hand while you're going down. And it's something else. It takes, and I give total props to the guys that are amazing at it. I mean, one of the guys that helped me out in my 360, Jason Barney, he's one of the best guys at it. I mean, his notebook's this big, and it's just crazy the stuff that he knows.
That's kind of like driving an old Model T. You got all these little levers and throttle and spark and all that stuff. You're always constantly adjusting as you're going down the road.
Jason, we sure get to talk a lot.
Yes, and some of us more than others.
Who, me?
I'm not pointing any fingers.
Yes, you are. But we want to hear from our listeners. Just go to our website, getoutandrive.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and click the listener hotline button. We want to hear from you. Cool stories, breakdown stories,
Questions, comments,
hate mail,
even hate mail?
even hate mail. You got a car show in your area? Let us know.
Tell us an interesting story.
Let us know what you like to get out and drive.
We know you enjoy the Get Out and Drive podcast. John, let our listeners know how they can support the show.
Well, you can buy the show a gallon of gas.
Please explain.
You've heard of Buy Me a Coffee, right?
Oh, yeah.
But who needs coffee? We need a gallon of gas. Just go to our website, getoutandrive.com, scroll to the bottom of any screen, and you'll see the Buy Us a Gallon of Gas link. Just click, and you'll help to keep our show running. Jason, let's give away another t-shirt.
Okay, let's do this. Our partners at Racing Junk are giving away a Borowski engine. You know, that big, powerful LS that was on display at SEMA. The question is, how much is that engine worth?
Well, there's an easy way to find out. Just race over to racingjunk.com, go to the giveaways section, and you'll find the information there.
And once you know what that Borowski engine is worth, go over to getoutandrive.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the homepage and give us your answer in our listener hotline.
And don't forget to enter to win the Borowski Racing engine on racingjunk.com.
Camp, tell us about where you're at with your racing. What is it exactly that you're racing? And tell us a little bit about that car.
You know, I'm racing any number of things right now. Primarily, we're focusing in Champ Car right now, but I've raced a Crown Vic majority of the time. It's been pretty fun. It's a big car, but it's really cool. You know, it's got the V8 up front, and you know, it's really easy to control. You know, it gets out, and you can feel it getting out. It's easy to control. It's really a great car to drive.
Yeah. So you talk a little bit about Champ Car. So that's kind of must be your bread and butter of your racing at the moment.
As of right now, yeah. No, it's a fun series to race in.
Talk a little bit about it. Tell us what it is that you're doing there. How did you get there? I guess should be the first question. How did you get into the Champ Car?
You know, believe it or not, I work at Ford Racing School, so that's kind of how I got. I was on Facebook, and I'm just meeting all these people on Facebook, and I actually just ended up messaging Kyle Lockrow, who manages me, and I went down to CMP just to watch a Champ Car race, just to be in the environment, meeting people and learning about the sport. And then a few months later, I messaged this guy on Facebook about just a seat, just being on the seat. And so he let me come on without any experience. We ended up doing really well that race. We ended up finishing second, so it was pretty good for my first race. But it's a lot of fun. It acts like a more professional series. It's a good time for sure.
Do you feel it feels like a more professional series because it is a full-size car, full-size front engine, rear drive V8?
In terms of the rules that they have, it's a little more professional compared to Lemons, 24 Hours of Lemons, stuff like that. It's, you know, people take it seriously. You know, there's a lot of guys that take it seriously, and there's people that compete in Champ Car that race IMSA and stuff like that. If they need seat time on a certain track, they'll come race Champ Car to prepare for their IMSA race. So you're racing against big guys, like bigger names, and so you get a lot of experience against these big guys in this series. So it's treated more professionally.
Well, I think professionalism might tend to come in from different aspects of the racing, and I'm just looking at the partnership pricing. I'm not going to go over that or discuss that on the air, but some of these are pretty pricey for sponsorship partnerships, I guess, to do what you're doing. And I was very surprised to see those zeros behind the per event racing. So this is pretty serious stuff. Like these are entry levels where companies want to jump on board to get their names out there, to become a partnership with what it is that you guys are doing. Can you tell us who your primary sponsorship is on your car today?
Yeah, I mean, KLR Management is our big sponsor, but like kind of umbrella under that, we have Max Pappas Innovations, Alpine Stars, Victory Junction. Those are kind of our guys that we partner with there. And of course, we're always looking and searching for anyone else who wants to partner. You know, help is always wanted. But as of right now, that's kind of where we're sitting, and it's been really great. They're great people to work with. They really are. For
Champ cars, what are parameters or different cars that are used? Is that just mostly the Panther platform cars, or what is? Tell our listeners what is parameters of that class.
So it's any variety of cars, right? Like you'll have it's class racing, so kind of IMSA-esque, if you say. You know, the fast cars are in a higher class, and then you slower kind of thing. And so you have class winners, and then overall winners, and kind of Le Mans-ish style. So you could have Porsches and you could have Geo Metros in the same race. But so, yeah, that's just kind of how it is. It doesn't really matter. Kind of run what you bring kind of thing.
Okay, so it is that you could have a full-size V8 rear-wheel drive American-made or American car running against a front-wheel drive lower horsepower car, correct?
Good. Yep.
Wow. And that is just every man for himself, or that is you're racing the clock still?
It's It's kind of hard to say because it's endurance racing. It's not. It's overall, it's who crosses the finish line first. But in class racing, it's more about survival. Whoever can get to the finish line in class first.
I see.
So, yeah, that's kind of how that works for us.
Well, you're teaching me because I see it and I stumble across it and I say, oh, that's pretty cool, but I'm not deep involved in it as you are. So again, I'm learning today. So
I learn every day, man. It's fun.
You have to learn something, learn one thing at minimum a day.
And speaking of learning, Lily, I want to find out from you. Obviously, it started off with a game. That I'm sure that your dad's probably maybe kicking himself a little bit now for getting you into that game at $49 or whatever it happens to be. But we look ahead now, and here you are. You've been racing for a few years. Have you had any formal racing experience, or not experience, formal racing training, schooling, or anything like that to get you better equipped to do what you're doing today?
I haven't had any schooling. The team I'm with, Kurt Britt Motorsports, when I just happened to join their team a few months back, they welcomed me in with open arms and just basically showed me the way because our past team wasn't that very great. So they were like, hey, come join our team. We'll show you guys basically everything, and just did.
Well, that's good because, when you join any sort of a team or partnership, you've all got to be part of the same team. You all got to work together. And if it's helping you to learn something new, then all of that experience from everybody else around you helps you do better, helps the team do better, right? So it's good to see that they're kind of able to work with you and be that welcoming into this new team. So what are some of the aspirations? What are some of your ambitions? What do you want to move forward to do after doing what you're doing right now?
To be completely honest with you, I'm not completely sure. I'm right now just on the road, just seeing where I can go with this, see if I can make a name for myself, see just where I can go with this, to be honest.
Well, that definitely works. And sometimes you have to get extremely comfortable with what you are doing currently to even begin to think about moving on, a transition to something different. Because if you don't, it becomes that you kind of get a little bit scattered. So I think you're on a good path.
Thank you.
Master one thing at a time.
Jordan, I want to direct that same question back to you. Is there any formal training, any formal racing schools that you've done to do what you're doing now, or has it all just been experience?
No, actually, the biggest thing that helped me going into the racing was probably have to be iRacing, watching lots of onboard videos.
Yeah, there you go.
Going into it, I'm not going to lie, I was nervous, trying to kind of not show it, and I never asked anyone what to do. And I regret it to this day because everyone's so nice. I mean, I was racing with the All-Star Circuit of Champions at Weedsport, and a guy came up to me, and no idea who he is. He just started helping us out, and then he goes, go watch. This is what you need to do. And I was like, sure enough, went up there and watched, and he was 100% correct. So I get back after the feature. We did real well, beat some of the really, really good guys in our area, and come back out of the feature. I'm like, who are you? And he was a real good guy in the late models. He's actually really close in our series, and ever since then, he's been helping us, and he's been really mentoring me this year. But getting into it, I did it all on my own, just kind of watching videos and doing lots and lots of hours of iRacing.
Yeah, that's very important. We always talk about learning with your mouth shut, and that's a very important thing. Everybody needs to learn because you can stumble through the dark and kind of poke at everything and learn from your mistakes. That's super great. But sometimes in racing, you learn from your mistakes upside down, and you're gonna get too hot in the corner or something. You're gonna crash. But somebody else can tell you, hey, if you do this or you do that, it'll kind of take their experience and you can tune it to fit yourself. And I think that's something that everyone in any aspect of any career certainly should take to heart. That's how I did. That's how I learned. I learned just from bugging other people that I could see the things that I liked. And I was the kid on the bicycle riding to someone's house, watching them pinstripe. And I was the one that annoyed all of the older folks. And it's a good way to learn. So everybody needs to continue that. And I respect what you're doing.
Thank you.
And Camp, you mentioned earlier that you are actually working for a Ford racing school at the moment.
Yes, sir, I do. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Yeah, it's a good time for sure.
So obviously, not just working there. Obviously, you must have a little bit of an inside scoop on getting things done as far as racing goes. I mean, obviously, if you're working there, you must be either on the receiving end. Maybe you're doing some instructing. Are you as part of the school?
To an extent, I work with a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am, guys that have competed in LMP and Petit Le Mans. And so I get a lot of good insight from those guys for sure. But yeah, we have this thing called the skid car, and it's fun. It's taught me a lot of car control, and I've learned about the business side of racing and how that functions and how things come together. It's a lot more of that than actually driving for us. It's pretty interesting, though. It's been a good experience for sure.
Now, Camp, I've read in your bio that you've been involved with stunt drivers. Have you had a little bit of that, a little thrown into that at all?
I work with one of the stunt driver. He's pretty cool, and I've learned a lot from him. He's done TV shows and movies, and I've always loved watching stunt drivers. I grew up on Top Gear USA, and Tanner Faust was always the guy to watch. So I've watched his career forever and ever, and Rallycross and all the stuff that he's done. And so yeah, I've always loved the stunt driving aspect of it for sure, and I've learned a lot about car control from guys like that.
Right. Have you gotten into that or been able to be a part of that? Or my favorite thing, did you get to ski a car yet?
No, I have not. I wish. Maybe one day in the future, but not yet. Not yet.
We're going around the table, and I always like to find out a little bit of some of your successes. And Lily, I'm going to start with you. What's your biggest success so far since you've been racing? What's the biggest thing that's kind of that crown that's made you feel like I've done this?
My biggest success, I would say right now, is I just went back-to-back winning the state championship for Ohio.
Nice. Good for you.
Thank you.
Jordan, how about you? Same question. What's the biggest thing that you can put that crown on to say, look, I've done this, I've made it?
Probably, honestly, just the season in general. It's been a really phenomenal year. We won 4 championships in the 305 division. Ended the year with 8 wins, 2 swept weekends. It was a phenomenal year, more than what we could ever expect.
That's awesome. Camp, same question to you. I know that, we always want to hear those big moments. And again, reading through your bio, you've already accomplished quite a bit. So what's the one thing that you would have to say stands out the most of everything?
The first race, it's always a big mark in every racer's career, but to come out and get second in your first race, it felt amazing. Come out of the gate firing. And, of course, we want to keep that momentum up because my racing career so far is very short. I've been racing since August. But yeah, definitely that's the king right now is the second place in the first race.
Now, Camp, again, read in your bio, you had an accident. Explain about that, and it was near the Virginia International Raceway. Kind of talk us through that. Is that a terrifying thing? What happened?
So my first race was at VIR, but about 20 minutes down the road, I was coming back from school just for like fall break or something like that, and I got hit by a truck, and we rolled like 4 or 5 times, and it definitely shook me up for a little while, especially a street car, because street cars, to me, I don't feel as safe in a street car as I do in a race car. But yeah, we landed on our roof, and we were told like we shouldn't have made it out of this one alive. And I drove an old truck. I drove like a 2000 Toyota 4Runner, so it had like 1 airbag and like nothing. So it shook me up. I definitely didn't like being in cars for a little while. I didn't even like riding in cars. So, it definitely took me some time to come back. But once I started working with Ford Racing, it got me back in the car, kind of forced me to get back in the car. So I kind of worked through that, and I was able to hop back in a race car. But yeah, it definitely was a rattling experience, to say.
And you were driving, or you were passenger?
I was driving. Yeah, I was driving home, and I had a friend with me, and that's kind of what scared me more than anything, because, you know, I had someone with me, and if something happens to them, it's my responsibility. And like, you know, but it rattled me for a little while, for sure.
Wow.
And both, obviously, you and your friend have kind of made a full recovery, and everything's good.
We were able to crawl out of the car with very minimal scratches. They got out with nothing on them. I had a little bit of glass here and there, but lucky, very, very lucky to walk away from that.
Well, even though you're driving a vehicle that's 20 plus years old, that doesn't mean they're not safe still, right? So that's the key there. I do want to talk a little bit about your guys' future, and to find out what your goals are. I mean, let's put racing aside for just a moment. Your professional careers, Lily, do you see yourself somewhere in the future? Is there something that you want to do outside of racing to say, this is my career?
Honestly, I don't know yet of what I honestly want to do in life, because racing's just basically been what I've done yet. And my family's all like, well, you got to think of something else just in case racing falls through. And I haven't thought of that thing yet. So I don't know what I want to do in life.
Well, and that's okay, because again, when you're still young, and even in high school, there's a lot of kids that are being pressured to go do certain things. Get that 4-year degree and go $100,000 in debt, and then have no job when you're done. We here at the Get Out and Drive podcast, we want to see people get back into the trades, whether it be mechanics, body work, even if it's plumbing, electrical, whatever it happens to be. Get into these trades and see where that takes you, because a 4-year degree with no job is not putting food on the table. We just want to see people, young people moving forward, and it's okay at such a young age to not know what that looks like yet. Jordan, you're 18. You must be pretty close to your senior year, if not already graduated. What's your ambition? Like, what do you want to do outside of racing that you can call yourself a career XYZ? What is that?
So I actually graduated just as, I'm actually graduated now, but I'm actually working full time at a sawmill. I'm running a payloader, wheel loader, some will call it, but I call it a payloader. But I can run the payloader, sawmill, the drill. It's been a real good journey. I interned there through BOCES for 2 years. So I started off right out of high school. The first day I graduated, it's been great so far.
And a lot of people don't even look at heavy equipment as a trade, and by golly, it's right up there with things like trucking and stuff like that. People have got to do it, and it takes a skilled person. I've tried my hand at things like that before. I'm not the guy behind the wheel of a payloader or an excavator. Bulldozer, those are pretty straightforward. Those are fun. But yeah, no, someone's got to do that. And it's great that you've already got that job, that you kind of a little bit of a career path already set. Camp, what say you? What are some of the things or what is the thing that you are looking forward to doing as a career? Maybe you're already doing it.
So I'm still in school. I'm getting a sports management degree. Motorsports has always been kind of my thing. So, whatever I can do kind of down the road in motorsports, whether it's kind of doing what Kyle's doing management and, being an agent or something like that to stay in the sports industry. That's kind of what I would like to do, say racing doesn't work.
Well, I know we're asking questions of everyone, and I have something. I know we touched on family and things of understanding what you do. Do your friends understand what you do, or do they support what you do? And as teachers as well, do they understand what you do and support what you do? Camp, we'll start with you.
A lot of my friends that I've made have been from the car scene here in town, or I played high school football, and a lot of those guys are they're into that because we're like-minded. One of my best friends, actually, he comes and plays Gasman every once in a while. And so he definitely is on board with it. But yeah, most of my schooling's online, so it makes it easy to kind of work around that schedule anyways. So yeah, but I'd say most of the people that are around me in my life support it for sure.
Lily?
I would say that all my friends and teachers, they support it. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I've like never had a race car driver go through the school before, let alone meet one. But they all support it, and they understand that there's going to be days where I'm missing some going to national events and stuff like that. They all understand. They're like, good luck. Yeah, you basically can make it up when you get back.
And Jordan, I know you said you've graduated, but what was your experience?
A little bit of 50-50. People always support it. People love it around here in my little town, but, it's tough when you have to miss, people like my friends I've known for 16, 17 years. We were born pretty much a month away. My mom watched my friends. It's tough when you got to miss their graduation parties. I almost missed my own graduation party, actually. I missed practice qualifiers. I just showed up and ran the feature and went from 14th to 1st. But it's difficult, but people support it and try to understand it. And it's definitely hard on everyone around. Me personally, we're family owned. We run about a 40 race schedule per year, so it's tough.
Wow. Yeah, I see it like people that do are involved in pretty heavy in sports or gymnastics and things like that. I see that the auto racing, you just don't see a lot of people doing that that are in school, in high school, but you see a lot of people doing gymnastics, and they go to a national or a global gymnastic event, and that seems to be pretty commonplace. But I need to skip school, quote unquote, skip school, so I can go to a sprint car race, and your teacher's going to look at you sideways.
Yeah, they always did, and the teachers around here they don't really understand it. I tried a million times. There's only a few, they're just kind of like, go do it. This is what you want to do. We can see how passionate you are. And then there's somewhere it's like, you need to go to college. You need to do this. You need to do that. Why are you missing English class to go race some race car? And it's people like that just will never understand it. And you don't even, sometimes you just give up trying.
And the reason I ask, because that's what happened to me personally. And having graduated so many years ago, but I had argument with my art teacher that said, you'll never get anywhere drawing cars. You'll never do this, you'll never do that. And they were always Debbie Downer about everything. And I'm very surprised that was happening at the time. And I'm glad to see that others are supportive in this day and age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, we look back and, there's certain things that people are good at. If you're in high school and you're good academically, there's a support system for that. If you're in high school and you are athletic, there's a support system for that. Even if you're artistic, there's a support system for that. If you're musically inclined, support system for that. But they've gone and they've taken all these traits. When you're in high school, there's so many different support teams or support groups for whatever it is you're good at. But they started taking the trades out of schools, like carpentry, metal shop, automotive shop, and all of a sudden, those are left to the sidelines. And when guys like Jordan and Camp and gals like Lily want to grow up in high school, learning about mechanics, learning about racing, learning about cars, there's no support system for that. And it's a shame that, and I'm not saying that's exclusionary to every school, because some schools do take that on and they do that. And I commend them for doing so. But, we want our listeners out there who have children, teenagers who are aspiring to do things like racing or mechanics or bodywork or carpentry or whatever it happens to be, that there are programs out there like the RPM Foundation that can help you get into programs to do exactly what Camp and Lily and Jordan are doing right here within our little group to want to pursue those careers. in racing, for instance. So, if you guys don't know who the RPM Foundation, we scratch their back, they scratch ours. That's what we do with them, is to help promote them. And that's why we do National Get Out and Drive Day, is to raise awareness of organizations like the RPM Foundation. That's going to help kids like Camp, Lily, and Jordan to move forward in these careers where there may not be the support system that they need to do what they love. John, if there's anything I missed in there, feel free to jump in and help fill that gap.
You are right on it. We try to support the next generation, and that is exactly who we're speaking to today. I thank everyone involved with us today for taking some time out and explaining their career and where they plan on going. Gathered a lot of information. I've learned a lot from each one of our guests today, and I've had fun.
I've had a blast as well. We should make sure we thank not just Camp, Lily, and Jordan, but we also want to thank Tanya as well as Kyle from Kyle Lockroad Racing. Kyle was a featured guest of ours not that long ago. We had a great time to chat with him, and it's good to see him helping out this next generation as well, moving these guys forward, because we're excited to see where you guys go in the future. And someday when we turn on that TV, we want to see your guys' names in lights. Guys, thanks so much for being a part of the Get Out and Drive podcast. Is there any final words that you guys want to share before we let you go?
Thank you guys for having us on. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. No.
Well, very good. Everyone listening to this, go to getoutanddrive.com and find our tab and support the RPM Foundation and support everyone else that is in the racing community that is a youth. So awesome. Great show.
Thanks, guys.
Cruise on over to our website, getoutanddrive.com, for all the info you never wanted to know about our podcast. Hit us up on our listener hotline, be the first to know what's happening, get industry news, and grab your Get Out and Drive merch. Connect with us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us on Twitter at Get Out and Drive Pod.
What drives you?